Have you ever noticed how some people just get it? That rare wisdom, that unshakable presence that commands respect. They aren't the loudest in the room, not the flashiest either, and yet somehow, they become the foundation of their communities. What's their secret? Today, we're diving into a story that's equal parts mysterious, ancient, and dangerously insightful. It begins in a remote village, where tradition isn't just remembered, it's lived. And at the heart of it all, one woman. A woman who carries knowledge so powerful, it could change the way you see relationships forever. Now, this isn't about cheesy romance or generic love advice. This is about control, devotion, and the silent power that shapes the strongest bonds between people. Think you already know what love is? Think again. Deep in the valley, surrounded by hills that whisper secrets to the wind, lived Madame Lara. She wasn't just respected, she was feared. The kind of fear reserved for those who truly understand the human soul. At 72, her silver hair gleamed like the first snowfall, and her eyes? They carried the weight of every untold story. She wasn't just an elder. She was a gatekeeper of ancient truths. One golden afternoon, a group of restless young men, some eager, some skeptical, gathered in her humble home. They weren't here for casual conversation. They wanted answers, real ones. And they knew, if anyone could give them, it was her. The room fell silent. One man leaned forward, his voice steady but uncertain. Madame Lara, what is the true meaning of devotion, beyond the physical, beyond what we think we know? A flicker of amusement crossed her face, but her gaze? Steady. She knew why they had come, because deep down, every person senses when they're missing something, when the relationships they build feel shallow, fleeting. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. Most think love is an exchange, give and take. But real devotion, she paused, it's something much more dangerous. The room seemed to shrink around them, every ear, every breath, hanging on her words. Our ancestors understood this. True intimacy. It was never just about the body. It was a reflection of power, a bond formed not in words, but in understanding. When a man truly honors a woman, not as an object, not as a conquest, but as a force, he unlocks something greater than himself. The air thickened. The men leaned in, closer. And those who master this, she continued, they aren't just partners, they become leaders. Because those who understand true devotion. She exhaled slowly. They rule, not just relationships, but everything else. A chilling silence filled the room. This was not the answer they had expected, but deep down, they knew. It was the answer they needed, and just like that, Madame Lara had changed their world. The question is, has she changed yours? Have you ever met someone whose wisdom seems to stretch beyond time itself? Someone whose very presence feels like an anchor in a world that never stops shifting. This is the story of such a person, a guardian of ancient knowledge hidden in plain sight. In a small forgotten village, nestled between hills that have stood watch for centuries, lived an enigmatic elder known only as Madame Lara. To outsiders, she was just another woman, silver-streaked hair, weathered hands, but to those who truly saw her, she was a vessel of forgotten truths, the kind that could shatter everything you thought you knew, about love, devotion, and the unseen threads that bind us all. One golden afternoon, a group of young seekers gathered at her modest home. They weren't here for idle conversation. They wanted answers. Answers buried beneath the noise of modern life. Among them sat a young man, his eyes heavy with unspoken questions. Finally, he broke the silence. Madame Lara, what is the real meaning of devotion? A knowing smile flickered across her lips. She had heard this question before, many times, but real answers? They can't just be given, they have to be discovered. Still, she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of countless lifetimes. Most believe love is about possession, she said, but those who try to own love never truly hold it. The greatest men in history didn't seek power over women. They sought to understand them, to see beyond the surface, to honor the sacred dance of devotion. Silence, not the kind that follows an unanswered question, but the kind that settles in when something deep within you shifts, when a buried truth is suddenly unearthed. She continued, her voice unwavering. A man who listens more than he speaks, who values the weight of his presence more than the volume of his words, is a man who will never be forgotten. True devotion isn't found in grand gestures, it's in the smallest acts, the way he looks at her when she isn't watching, the way he protects her peace even in his absence, the way he gives, expecting nothing in return. A young woman sitting across from her exhaled sharply, like something inside her had just unlocked. But how did they know? She asked. How did they recognize such men? Madame Lara chuckled softly. They didn't need to. Her eyes gleamed, because true devotion is impossible to fake. It is felt, not performed. The weight of her words settled over the group, embedding itself into their very bones. Some exchanged glances, seeing each other, perhaps, for the first time. Others looked down, lost in thought. The truth has a way of exposing the illusions we tell ourselves. Outside, the setting sun bathed the village in gold, as if the universe itself was nodding in agreement. And as twilight wrapped around them, the seekers realized something. They hadn't come looking for knowledge. They had come looking for wisdom. And wisdom isn't something you learn, it's something you become. Their journey had only just begun. The young man spoke again, his voice softer now, more introspective. Madame Lara, you speak of honoring and understanding. But how does a man truly learn this? How does he move beyond selfish desire, to reach the wisdom of our forefathers? Madame Lara regarded him with an approving nod, as if she'd been waiting for this question. She leaned forward slightly, the firelight casting deep shadows across her face, making her words feel almost like a spell woven into the air. To learn the essence of devotion, one must first unlearn everything the world has taught about love. Many believe relationships are built on attraction, on fleeting moments of passion, but real love, the kind that endures beyond years, is cultivated through acts of care so profound, they require no acknowledgement. The group sat in silence, captivated. This wasn't just a lesson, it was a revelation. It's in the way a man listens when no words are spoken, in the way he remembers the smallest details, in the way he seeks not to be served, but to serve. Love is not a possession. It is not something to take, nor is it something given in exchange for another act. Love, in its truest form, is an offering, the willingness to place another's happiness above your own, not as a sacrifice, but as a privilege. And the men who understood this, who carried this wisdom within them, became legends. Something in the air shifted. Something ancient, unspoken, had been awakened. The young woman, her thoughts still weaving together the wisdom she had just absorbed, spoke hesitantly. But, Madame Lara, how does one prove such love? Words can be empty, gestures, fleeting. How does one demonstrate devotion in a way that is undeniable? A slow smile curved the elder's lips, as though she had heard this question 1,000 times before. Ah, my dear, that is the very heart of it. Love is proven not in grand gestures, not in gifts or poetic words, but in consistency, in the unwavering choice to show up, day after day, in ways both seen and unseen. The greatest lovers in history were not those who merely professed love, but those who embodied it. A hushed silence fell over the group, anticipation hanging in the air, Madame Lara let it linger, just long enough. Then, she spoke again, softer this time, as if she were about to share a sacred secret. In the days of our ancestors, physical intimacy wasn't just an act, it was a ritual, a language, a conversation between souls. The men most revered weren't the strongest or the most dominant. No, they were the ones who understood that a woman's body wasn't something to be conquered, but something to be worshipped. That true pleasure wasn't about taking, it was about giving, about understanding the rhythm of their partner's heart as deeply as their own. The young man who had asked the question swallowed hard. His curiosity deepened. So you're saying true connection isn't just built through words. It's in how someone engages with their partner's very being? Madame Lara's gaze didn't waver. Not just engages, honors, respects, loves. The fire crackled, and for a moment, the very air seemed charged, as if it carried the echoes of generations past. These young seekers had come in search of knowledge, but what they had received was something far greater. A timeless truth, whispered through the wisdom of an elder who had seen love in its purest form. Little did they know, their journey had only just begun. Let me tell you something most people get completely wrong about love. It's not about passion. It's not about attraction. And it sure as hell isn't about finding the one. See, the problem with modern relationships, everyone's chasing a feeling, a grand cinematic moment, a perfect all-consuming love. But history? Oh, history tells a different story. The men who were truly remembered, the ones who left an imprint, not just on a woman's body, but on her soul, they didn't rush. They didn't treat love like an obligation, or a game to be won. They lingered, they observed, and most importantly, they understood one crucial truth. Love isn't about taking, it's about elevating. Sounds old-fashioned, right? Maybe even a little impossible in today's world of quick swipes and fast goodbyes. But here's the kicker. What if I told you the most powerful relationships in history weren't built on grand gestures, or poetic words, or lavish gifts? They were built on something far simpler, something far more dangerous. Consistency. Because love, the kind that lasts, the kind we still whisper about centuries later, it's not a firework, it's a slow burn. It's not in the big, showy moments, it's in the way a man listens. When no one else is paying attention, the way he remembers the smallest details, the way he doesn't demand love, but instead proves himself worthy of it, over and over again, without ever keeping score. And those men? They weren't just loved, they were revered. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the most charming, but because, in their presence, a woman felt truly seen. Now I know what you're thinking. Does that kind of love even exist anymore? Or is it just a fairy tale we tell ourselves to make the loneliness a little less unbearable? Madame Lara, an elder whose wisdom stretched back through generations, once said, "It does exist. But it is rare, not because people are incapable of it, but because they have forgotten how to seek it." And that's the tragedy of modern love. We've been taught to chase passion, to chase novelty, to chase validation, but the love that actually lasts, the love that endures, even when the passion fades, even when time wears down its edges, that kind of love isn't found in the chase, it's found in the choice, the daily unwavering choice to show up, to nurture, to honor, to see each other, not just in the good times, not just when it's easy, but in the quiet, unremarkable moments where most people stop looking. The truth? Love isn't a feeling. It's a discipline, a practice, a way of being. And those who master it? They don't just have relationships. They have legends. So tell me, in a world obsessed with instant gratification, Do you have the patience to build something eternal? Imagine this. Love isn't some grand earth-shattering moment like the movies make it out to be. It's not the dramatic chase, not the fireworks, not the passionate, fleeting intensity. No. Real love, the kind that actually lasts, it's built in the quiet moments, the ones no one talks about, the way you listen when they're not saying a word, the way you stay when walking away would be easier. Madame Lara knew this truth well. She had seen generations come and go, all convinced they had figured love out, only to be left wondering where it all fell apart. And so, when the question arose, does real love still exist? She didn't laugh. She didn't scoff. Her eyes, filled with a mix of sorrow and hope, simply softened. It does, she said. But it is rare, not because people are incapable, but because they have forgotten how to seek it. The world teaches us to chase passion, to chase novelty, to chase validation. But love, the kind our ancestors cherished, it isn't found in the chase, it's found in the choice, the daily unwavering choice, to nurture, to honor, to truly see one another. She let the silence sit for a moment. Then she continued, her voice steady, certain. And those who understand this, the ones who love with presence, patience, and purpose, they will be the ones who build relationships that stand the test of time. The young seekers, drawn to Madame Lara in search of wisdom, felt something shift within them. They had come for knowledge, but what they had gained was something far greater, a new way of seeing love itself. As they stepped out into the night, the village wrapped in a hush of contemplation, one truth settled into their bones. Love isn't about being wanted. It's about making someone feel cherished beyond measure. But the night wasn't done with them yet. As they neared the central square, the warm flicker of candlelight glowed from Elder Helio's home. He had been waiting, because he knew their journey wasn't over. With a knowing smile, he gestured for them to enter. "You have heard the wisdom of Madame Lara," he said, his voice as steady as the ground beneath them. "But understanding is not enough. Knowledge without action is just another story. Now you must learn how to live it." The young man who had first posed the question sat closest to the fire, his eyes locked onto Helio. "Teach us," he said simply. "Show us how to turn wisdom into practice." Helio leaned forward, his fingers tracing the grain of the wooden table before him. "Love," he said, "is not something that happens to you. It's something you choose every single day. And this choice, this sacred decision to honor another soul, it is not made in grand declarations. It is made in the moments when no one is watching, in the way you touch, in the way you listen, in the way you stay present, even when leaving would be easier." The fire crackled, the only sound in the heavy silence. "A man who wishes to be truly loved," Helio continued, his gaze moving over each face, "must first learn to give love without expectation. The body is a vessel, yes, but love, the kind that withstands time, is not found in flesh alone. It is found in how you make your partner feel. A woman, like the earth itself, flourishes when nurtured. She opens when she feels safe, when she feels seen, when she knows, without a shadow of doubt, that she is cherished." The young woman who had been silent until now spoke, her voice laced with uncertainty. "But how do we know if love is real? If it will last?" Helio's eyes softened. "Love lasts when it is built on understanding, patience, and reverence. When a man sees a woman not as a possession, but as a universe to be explored, when he learns the language of her silence, when he studies her dreams as closely as he studies her touch, when he does not seek to claim her, but to stand beside her, as an equal, as a partner in the sacred dance of devotion." The words settled over them like a gentle storm, soaking into their thoughts, reshaping their understanding. "So love," the young man murmured, realization dawning. Isn't something that can be forced. It's something that is earned, through presence, through care, through patience. Helio nodded. Exactly. And that is why, for generations, our ancestors treated intimacy not as a transaction, but as an art. And just like that, the seekers understood. Love, the real kind, was never about the rush. It was about the lingering, the staying, the choice every single day to cherish the one standing beside you. Love. We talk about it, chase it, and sometimes even mistake it for a passing infatuation. But here's a truth no one tells you. Real love isn't about grand gestures or poetic words whispered under the moonlight. It's about presence. The kind of presence that doesn't waver when life gets messy, when passion dims, when routine sets in. Once, in a village that time almost forgot, love wasn't just an emotion. It was an art, a commitment, a way of life. And at the heart of this wisdom stood Elder Helio, a man who had seen love in its truest form, and knew that most people had been looking at it all wrong. One evening, a group of young seekers gathered in his dimly lit home, eager for answers. "Teach us," one of them finally asked, "not just what love is, but how to make it last." Helio leaned forward, his fingers tracing the grain of the wooden table as if drawing strength from the past. "Love," he said, "is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose, every single day." A few skeptical glances were exchanged, but he continued, "And this choice? It's not made in dramatic declarations or fiery passion. No. Love is found in the moments no one sees, in the way you listen when it's easier to tune out, in the way you stay, when walking away would be simpler." The fire crackled in the silence. Then Helio's eyes swept over the group, settling on each face with the weight of a man who had seen too many people get it wrong. A man who wishes to be truly loved must first learn how to love without expectation. And a woman, like the earth itself, blooms when she feels safe, when she knows she is truly seen, cherished beyond the surface.